Matthew. This is how the birth of Jesus Christ came about. When his mother Mary was betrothed to Joseph, but before they lived together, she was found with child through the Holy Spirit. Joseph, her husband, since he was a righteous man, yet unwilling to expose her to shame, decided to divorce her quietly. Such was his intention when, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, "Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary, your wife, into your home, for it is through the Holy Spirit that this child has been conceived in her. She will bear a son, and you are to name him Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins." All this took place to fulfill what the Lord had said through the prophet, "Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and they shall name him Emmanuel," which means God is with us. When Joseph awoke, he did as the angel of the Lord had commanded him, and took his wife into his home. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
The Advent wreath is a good teacher. Whether we see the Advent wreath as a teacher or not, she's teaching us throughout these 4 Sundays. What I'd like to do today is just kind of briefly go over some of the symbolism from the Advent wreath candle. Okay. First, the Advent wreath candle is in circular fashion. Okay. That symbolizes how God's love extends to everybody. Nobody is exempt. If you remember, Jesus said, "Go teach all nations." In other words, it's for everybody. We say in the Nicene Creed, which we've taken a pause from, where we do say the Nicene Creed after the homily, we'll say one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. That's a good symbol of Catholic. It's universal, okay? It is for everybody, that everybody might turn to the one, to turn to Jesus Christ. Another thing that the circular fashion here shows us is it's the great picture of theology. It's known as the exitus reditus model. Well, what is that? It's the exit from God, so going forth from God, and then returning back to him. That's the story of creation. It's the great biblical boomerang. It's as if God kind of takes creation, a big boomerang, throws it out there, and in time we come to know, to love, and to serve him, and hopefully return back to him. The Advent wreath depicts that in beautiful fashion. Also, what the Advent wreath depicts is we have the 4 candles, symbolizing these 4 Sundays of Advent. Each of them helping us to see or evoke something different. So hope, peace, last weekend joy, today love. And with today focusing on love, it's often associated with Mary. And right before the liturgy of the Eucharist, we have that prayer. It's called the preface of the Eucharist. "The Lord be with you, and with your spirit, lift up your hearts." And it's that beautiful prayer that comes after. And there's going to be a line today that helps us to think about Mary and her love for Jesus. And the line goes something like this: "And the Virgin Mother who longed for Jesus beyond all telling." The Virgin Mother who longed for Jesus beyond all telling. And so today, as we really approach the Nativity of Jesus, we kind of buckle up a little bit. We lean in on Mary and we say, I hope I have a love like that too. I hope my love for Jesus is beyond all telling too. We all want that. That's what the saints had. Also, what's depicted is the material of the Advent wreath candle has exceptional symbolism. Well, first off, it's the evergreen. What does that evoke for us? What does it point to? Well, this time in northern Pennsylvania, it's clear there's not much vegetation out there. Things have really died off. We could say it's a time of exceptional desolation. And now sometimes the most beautiful time to go to Presque Isle. I know you've been there in the wintertime. I mean, it's amazing. If you haven't gone in a while, go back. It's stunning. There's something about it. But the evergreen remains. Doesn't matter what the season is, the evergreen remains. In other words, it's to draw out of us hope. That even amidst the difficulties, the evergreen holds. So what is it that our hope holds on to? Even amidst the desolation of our times, the darknesses, the difficulties, the sins we struggle with, what does our hope really lean in on amidst the desolation? The promises of Jesus Christ, those promises that have been in the first reading each Sunday. The virgin shall conceive, and they're going to call him Emmanuel, which means God is with us. God sticks to his promises, okay? He sticks to them. That's where our hope lies. The evergreen draws that out. Also, what's seen in our Advent wreath is we have fruit that's depicted. Sometimes in an Advent wreath, you might see pine cones as well. It's the seeds that are poured forth, okay? It's the faith that's perpetuated. But with this fruit here, what it helps us to see is that if you remember when Elizabeth, the angel Gabriel says to Mary, hey, your cousin Elizabeth has conceived in her old age. And Mary, you will conceive by the Holy Spirit, and you're to name him Jesus. And she runs in haste to Elizabeth. And Elizabeth gives us the beginning of the prayer of the Hail Mary. She says, blessed are you among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. The Advent wreath helps us to think about that. This fruit that is to come that we'll be celebrating later this week. The fruit is Jesus himself. Okay. Now also you see in the Advent wreath that there's the red berries. Well, what does that symbolize? The red berries point us towards the crucifixion. We know the story well as Christians. This week we'll take a great moment where we celebrate the Nativity. It's very joyous. God, who visits his people in the person of Jesus, will rest in the wooden manger. But we know not long after, 33 years later, he will be placed upon the wood of the cross. From the wood of the manger to the wood of the cross. And the berries remind us, amidst the beautiful times this is of the Nativity, let us not forget the mission of Jesus. He came to die for us because he perfectly loves us. Okay, final note here on the Advent wreath. If we look at it from an aerial view, what we'll see with these 4 candles is that they're in the 4 cardinal directions as well, north, south, east, and west, meaning Jesus said, go teach all nations. It's for everybody, okay? That is a clear message of Catholicism. Another thing that's depicted is that it's in the cruciform shape, just as our cathedral's in a cruciform shape. Again, pointing us to, yep, the Nativity's great, but let's not forget what this is pointing towards later. Last thing about the candles, which I think is most significant. I've mentioned this before, but it can't be overlooked. At this point in the 4th Sunday of Advent, we see that the candles have been burning down. They're decreasing, as John had said. I must decrease, Christ must increase. That's a clear message of the gospel. That is the motto of what it is to be a Christian. That we must decrease in humility, that Christ must increase. We have to commit ourselves to this. But today in the gospel, we've turned to the gospel writer Matthew. Luke focuses in on Mary, which is beautiful. Matthew gives the attention to Joseph. Joseph is often a hidden figure, we could say. Sometimes Joseph's like the Advent wreath. We know about him. We know about the wreath. But sometimes it's tucked to the side. It's tucked to the side in our mind. Pope Francis had said about St. Joseph that he is an earthly father who is hidden and in the shadows. Many nativity scenes might depict Joseph where he's kind of in the shadows a little bit. He's getting to work in the backdrop. And maybe some of you feel like Joseph. You're kind of behind the scenes. You're getting to work. Maybe you don't feel like you're in the center of attention, which is absolutely fine. Maybe you feel like Joseph. Maybe you feel like the Advent wreath, kind of tucked to the side. And for Pope Francis, he said this shortly before he died. It was the last document he wrote. He said this about Joseph. Although Joseph is hidden, although he is behind the scenes, what he does show us is that God is capable, through what we might say insignificant figures, to have an incomparable role in salvation history. The saints understood that. If we are willing in humility to be like candles and decrease, that Christ might increase, if we are willing to be hidden in the shadows, we also can play an incomparable role in the story of salvation. So as we approach this Christmas, let's ponder this question. Do we have the humility to commit ourselves to be like St. Joseph, to be like John the Baptist? to be like all the saints who have come before us, that we might decrease, that Christ might increase. That's a journey worth committing to. There is nothing more exciting than seeing God take a sinner and turn him into a saint. Remember, Catholicism is universal. The availability is for us too. Let us have that humility to let Jesus Christ work through our hearts. May you enjoy a wonderful Christmas this year. Invite him into your heart this year.